Good evening, everybody. My name is Cherie, and I'm a clinical social worker and psychotherapist. I have a private practice in Garden City, New York, at 585 Stewart Avenue. And tonight I come in here to talk to you about depression, more specifically about men in depression. When I made the decision to have this show, I wanted to do something that was something I was passionate about, and my passion is helping other people. So tonight I have someone here who's going to talk to you about their journey and their overcoming depression. So I want to introduce to you the person who had the courage to come in here and talk about it, who was brave enough, Wayne. Everybody welcome Wayne.
How you doing?
Hi, Wayne. I know you're a little nervous.
Of course.
So let's start talking about your journey from, because I know today you're in a better place than you were from the day one.
Yes. Well, I guess like it goes back to as far as I could say I was around 12 or 13, back when I was in about 7th grade. I started feeling depressed or sad a lot because of schoolwork for the most part. Being brought up with West Indian parentage, my father was rather strict on me when it came to schoolwork. And he would always, I don't know, I guess he was trying to make me do better. And he would yell at me. You know, everybody who has West Indian parents know they get spankings from time to time. But I would take that in the wrong way, and I beat myself up about not being able to produce right answers for him. And I let it get the best of me. And that's pretty much how it started.
And you think, yeah, I was going to say, you think that's where it started, the depression?
Oh, yes, definitely. Because one incident in particular I can remember is I was in school and in class, of course, not doing well in class, and I just decided to take a piece of paper and fill up the whole paper writing, Wayne is stupid, Wayne is stupid, Wayne is stupid, front to back. And at that point, I guess it was found, somebody found it, told the school therapist or told somebody, and then I ended up they tried to send me to a school therapist. And I didn't feel comfortable with that, so I just pretty much told her exactly what she wanted to hear. And
you said you were 12 years old when that happened?
Just about. I was in 7th grade.
Okay, so from 12 years old till, let's say, 15, what was it like for you?
12 years old to 15, well, yeah, I wasn't doing good in school. And I guess another thing that added to it was I didn't feel that I was good looking or attractive. I always thought I was ugly. Did not get a lot of...
Where do you think that thought came from, the thought that you were ugly?
In all honesty, I really don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I know I was made fun of sometimes here and there.
Okay.
But I think with me, anytime I heard any negative comments towards me, I took it in too much, and I started accepting it as truth.
Okay, because that's what usually happens. I think we've talked about what the unconscious does. If somebody tells you something one time, you'll say, okay, whatever. If they tell you twice, you'll think about it. The third time, it's truth.
Yeah.
right? So we talked about that. And at 15, there were other things that happened.
Oh, well, I was in high school at that point, and that ended up being a really rough time at one point. I had some issues with friends where police got involved, and my parents weren't too happy, thinking, oh, pretty much blaming me for it.
What exactly happened?
Um, my friends decided it would be cool to have a party in my backyard while me and my family went on vacation. So we went away on vacation. They told me they were going to do it, and I, of course, said, don't wild out.
Mm-hmm.
They still did it. We came back to cable box and VCR in my parents' room being broken because they got scared, pulled some wires, and broke it. So that happened. And actually, right before I left, I actually started a job at...
So I'm trying to understand. I don't understand. What did that have to do with you?
Well, right away, my father wanted to have the place dusted for fingerprints. And me being scared, thinking about my friends, I don't want them to get in trouble or get arrested. I told them what happened, and they assumed that I allowed them to do it.
Okay.
And once that occurred, they still called the cops. I had friends try and bring the broken devices back. And yeah, my father was extremely upset with me. So was my grandmother, my mother. So at that point, I was feeling really low. I felt like I let down my parents.
So you felt guilty.
Yes.
So just to let everybody know, guilt is self-persecutory, which means that if someone feels guilt, then they want to persecute themselves. And sometimes the guilt can be unconscious, where we don't recognize that there's guilt there.
Yeah, I don't think I knew that at all at that point.
So what happened?
Well, before we actually went on vacation, I had just started a new job at Staples. I think I worked one day, and we went on vacation. And I remember the next day after that incident happened, I had to go to work, and I was going to take the bus, and my mom was trying to give me a ride, and she knew I was feeling down. And I was actually pretty emotional right at that point when she was trying to offer me a ride, and I didn't want to accept it. I remember distinctively telling her, how can I accept a ride from you after what I just did?
And you hadn't done anything.
Yeah, at that point, you couldn't tell me that.
Okay, so you were internalizing somebody else's actions because your parents were saying it was your fault.
Yep.
Okay.
Pretty much. So I ended up going to work, and that day at work, at the end of the shift, my register came up $666 short. They told
$666.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. And
wow.
It always rings a bell.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they told me that they could no longer have me working there until they found out what happened. So I let my parents down. I was already feeling upset about school and not being smart enough. And then losing the job, I hit I think that was one of the lowest points I hit in my life. And not too many people know about that, but for about a week after that, I stayed in bed. I didn't eat, didn't shower. I was just in bed the whole time. And one day I just said, you know, I've had it. And I went into the garage, found a rope, went into the backyard, had a chair, threw it over the branch, set up the noose and everything, and I had the chair on one leg. And I was ready to kick it over, but I couldn't do it at that point. I just kept seeing my mom's face and picturing her reaction to finding me there, and I just couldn't see myself hurting her that much at that point. So I didn't go through with it, obviously. Mm-hmm. And yeah, after that, I don't even remember. I didn't tell anybody about that actually, at all. So I don't think good majority of my friends didn't know anything about that. I kept that a secret for years.
How do you think you got to the point where you actually wanted to hang yourself?
I guess it was suffering.
Okay.
I was just tired of letting people down, letting my parents down.
And how old were you?
16.
You were 16.
Yeah, 16.
And you were tired of letting them down.
Not doing good in school.
Mm-hmm.
I think at that point, I don't think I had a girlfriend yet, and I think any girl I attempted to talk to declined any of my offers, so wasn't feeling too hot about myself, and it was just at that point why continue living? It was like I'm not happy. I'm not making anybody else happy. Why be here?
Can you describe what it felt like for you internally? Because I think I want people to understand about suicide, because we're going to talk about that again. We're going to talk about that later on, but I want them to understand that it's not about just wanting to die. Can you explain to them what it's about? And what
I guess right now what's coming to mind is no longer upsetting or letting anybody down.
Okay, but what were you feeling? Were you feeling something?
Tired.
Okay.
Very tired. I felt like I was trying to do things right, and everything I did was wrong, so it was just why continue. I couldn't think of any reason to continue going on. And it was just better, I felt it would be better if I was just gone. That was it.
And that's all you felt. Was there any pain there for you?
Pain? I'm not sure.
Or at any point during your bout with depression, even as you got older, was there any pain for you?
Yeah, I guess there was some pain there.
Because I feel, well, I know that depression is more about that. It's not about not wanting to be here. It's more about the suffering. It's more about the pain and wanting the pain to go away.
Yeah, because I felt, once I was gone, there's nothing I'd have to worry about. Nothing that would be bothering me anymore. Nothing I would have to...
Or bothering your parents.
Yeah. I almost felt like it would be beneficial to other people. I started feeling like I was a nuisance.
And how old were you when you stopped thinking that way? What makes you laugh?
Because I want to say it was around this time last year where I could finally look in the mirror and say, I'm happy and I want to be here.
Okay, so that's why you're here, because we're here to talk about his journey and how he got to a place where he was able to say he was happy. Like, you actually was at a place where you didn't want to be here anymore.
Yeah, at all.
For a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Almost as long as I can remember. I remember being in high school and everybody's talking about college afterwards. And I really tried to sit down and see my future past high school. And all I saw was nothingness, just black. Didn't see anything at all.
So you didn't have any plans, no hope at all?
No, none.
And do you feel like that came from being told that you weren't smart enough or being told that you weren't attractive enough?
Yeah, of course, because like you said, once you're told it more than once.
So the story really goes, somebody tells you something once, somebody tells you you're a horse once. You'll say, yeah, okay, whatever. The second time you'll think about it. The third time you'll buy yourself a saddle.
Yeah.
I got that from Patsy Torini, yes.
Yeah, that's pretty much how that went. And I guess you could say it was hard. It was hard for me. It's especially because if you ask any of my friends now or back then, they would probably tell you I was the happiest kid alive. Like, I was very good at disguising it. Nobody knew.
Do you think that men do that? Is that something that men do?
Oh, of course. I mean, who wants to be
What I feel is I feel that men look at depression as being a weakness,
Yeah.
an emotional weakness. So nobody wants to admit that they're depressed. You have women that feel the same way. They don't want to say that they're depressed. And why do you think that is? Other than the emotional weakness, what else do you feel like kept you from saying anything about it?
Thinking it would be a burden on other people.
That's like a theme for you. Like you always think you're going to be a burden.
Yeah. I guess growing up, my parents, led me to believe that we were poor, didn't have enough. So when I needed things or when I wanted things, and I could see it in there, especially with my mom, like she wanted to give me, but she didn't. And sometimes when she did, I just felt like I shouldn't have asked for it, or I don't deserve it because, it's making her situation worse, which would be making the whole family situation worse.
So early on, you felt like you were a burden.
Yes.
And early on, you felt like you weren't good enough for your parents.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially with my father. I mean, thinking about it now, I know that he said and did things the way he did, thinking that, doing it for my benefit. I guess now that I think about it, he says, when I remember hearing stuff like, why is my son so stupid? Why my kid can't do this? Why my kid can't do that? I think he was saying that to try and get me to prove him wrong. And it did the exact opposite.
But to you, it was like he was disappointed in you.
Yeah, and I was just like, why continue being his son, almost.
Okay. From that point after because you said you can't remember much after the 16-year-old to
well, when dealing
22?
With the depression, I mean, I guess my next incident after that was when I was about 26, maybe, around there, 25, 26.
Okay.
And right around that time, a whole new set of events started taking place, and I guess that triggered bringing me back to that low point once again.
Okay, well, we're going to come back and talk about that low point, because we have to take a commercial break right now. We'll be right back.
Stretching under sedation, or manipulation under anesthesia, is a very gentle, very precise procedure to very slowly release any scar tissue that is formed as a result of a traumatic injury. Many people ask, how does this work? Will I get hurt? Will you stretch me too far? We only stretch the body part to its normal range of motion. After completing the post-MUA rehabilitation program, it's very common that our patients say to us, hey, I can play ball with my kid again. Hey, I can bowl again. Hey, I can enjoy hiking again. This is what makes it rewarding to us as practitioners.
I'll be on top again. greatest MC in history. There will never be an MC greater than me. And right about now, the only place for you to be is with your one and only Madhousetv.
You are the man.
And we're back with Wayne and talking about men and depression. We went into a commercial with Wayne talking about his depression and things that he's gone through and his journey with depression. You were talking about triggers when we left off.
Yeah, I think I started talking about when I was around 25, 26. Might have been even before that, but because I went on pretty much a little bit of a roller coaster ride for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
But I was raised as Jehovah's Witness, and I don't know, I think I always had a lot of respect for that religion. I was always, I mean, I was in it, you know. Granted, being young and in it, nobody really wants to be in it. You know, you feel like it's annoying. But after a while, I tried to really take it seriously. And once I think I tried taking it seriously,
Mm-hmm.
is when I started hurting even more.
Okay, so talk a little bit about that. Why do you feel like that led to more depression or more suffering?
Well, I'm right now. I'm thinking about when actually the first time I was actually hospitalized. I was there's what they call I'm trying to think of the terminology they use for it now. I'm drawing a blank, but it's some type of pioneer. It's a word before pioneer, but that's, you know, going out and pretty much preaching to other people.
Like when you go to field service?
Yeah, they call it field service, but there was auxiliary pioneering.
Oh.
That's what it was called.
Okay.
And when you're doing that, you're putting in a certain number of hours a month. I don't remember exactly what it was at that time. I was like around 40 or 50 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to put in all those hours and do it. And as this one day when I was doing it, I was trying to put in all the hours, and I'm like, I was questioning myself as I'm doing. I'm like, how can I be trying to tell these people these things when I'm doing something else at the same time? I mean, they don't believe in, you know, overindulgence in drinking, smoking weed, and those were things I was pretty much doing off and on at that point.
That was more guilt.
Yeah.
So me personally, I feel like that's what religion does. And there's probably going to be a lot of people who don't like what I have to say, but I feel like that's what religion does. It, you know, makes people feel guilty about what they are not doing or what they are doing.
I don't think I was really focusing on the religion. I think I was focusing on God himself. I was like, if he's saying this is what I should be doing.
But is God saying that?
Well, you know, it says it in the Bible.
Okay.
So I'm going based on
the Bible says you shouldn't smoke weed.
Doesn't say that word for word, but along those lines, that's one of the things you shouldn't be doing.
Okay.
And if I was doing that, it was just like, how can he even accept this? Because you're doing the auxiliary pioneering for him. You're putting in these hours for him. So it's like, what are these hours worth anymore if this is what I'm doing on the other end? So I remember being actually out in field service. I was by the train station, and I remember I just started, I believe it was a panic attack I was starting to have. I don't really know the definition behind it, but
what was happening?
I was breathing heavy. I was lightheaded. I had to sit down. I was dropping my stuff all over the place. And
what brought that on?
Just thinking like, you know, he doesn't accept it. He's not accepting what I'm doing.
Didn't accept it.
Yeah, he's not accepting what I'm doing. It's not good. And how can pretty much how can he love me if I'm not doing what he wants me to do?
Mm-hmm.
And I just beat myself up. And I remember at that point, I just said, I've had it. And I remember I went home, I changed my clothes, I got into my car, drove somewhere else, and I wanted to do the suicide thing again, but I was really fighting myself at that point, and I didn't know what to do, but the only thing I could think of was like calling a 1-800 suicide hotline and thinking it was pretty much stupid to do that, but I was on the phone with them and I was, pretty much explaining my situation, and what they told me to do at that point was to drive myself to the nearest hospital. And I ended up in a hospital at the psych ward for about 2 to 3 weeks.
Now, you ended up in the psych ward just from suicidal ideation, which means you just have thoughts of suicide, or did you have a suicide attempt?
I didn't attempt at that point. I told them that I really wanted to, but I didn't know what else to do. I was just like, stuck almost, trying to figure out what to do. And I didn't want to be here. I really didn't want to be here at that point. And yeah, I spent 2 or 3 weeks in the psych ward after that. That was rather interesting.
What was that like for you to be?
It was weird because, you see, I guess going back to watching TV shows and just hearing about other things, you expect a certain type of environment, and that's not what I saw.
What did you expect?
Right now, what I'm envisioning is an Eminem video where he was in the psych ward and people are just like having pills, throwing them all over the place, throwing tantrums, and just people just looking crazy, smelling crazy. And I mean, granted, there were some people that were acting a little crazy, but it wasn't like what I expected. It was pretty much.
You were there for that was a long time to be there.
Yeah, for my first time, but I remember that wasn't the longest time I was in there.
So you were there another time?
Yeah, I was in the psych ward probably about 3 or 4 more times after that, maybe more.
And you were there because, were you? And you were there for depression?
Yeah. Yeah. I think they tried putting me on some antidepressants at that point. I don't think the medications really worked with me at all.
So you had severe depression?
Yeah. I wouldn't eat. I do a lot of sleeping. I mean, I still sleep a lot now. It's one of my favorite pastimes, actually. But I think I took it to another level at that point. And even friends I had, they would try calling me, trying to talk to me. It was just like I was a mute. I didn't say much.
So, okay, let me go back a minute, because I know when people hear psych ward, there's probably a million people watching now saying, he's crazy.
Yeah.
So I just want to make it clear about you going into, being admitted into the hospital. That's what, you said was 2 or 3 more times after that?
Probably more.
Really?
Yeah.
And what were those admissions for?
I can't remember exactly, because I remember I must have tried, I don't know, between all those times being in and out, maybe like 20 or 30 different medications I was probably on. And they were all trying something new to see if that would work. And
then, wait, but why were you back in the hospital? Did it have something to do with the medication?
No, I just got to that point again. I remember one time I was in therapy.
Okay.
I was in a therapy session because after the first time I was hospitalized.
So you went to a therapy session, and then did you tell your therapist that you wanted to hurt yourself?
No, I think I just told them that I just didn't want to be here anymore.
Okay, so then they called and they had somebody come take you. Okay.
Yeah, that was pretty frustrating.
That was, you were in a private, or you were in a clinic?
Yeah. No.
You were seeing a private therapist?
No. I believe I was in a clinic.
Okay.
It was the South Nassau
Okay.
clinic, yeah. I was there and
then they admitted you when the...
Yeah, I think it must have been like a resident type or intern type that was doing a session with me, and I mentioned it, and she like froze up, and she was like, "Oh, I have to get,
Supervisor."
Yeah, and then that person came in, they asked me the same question, I told them, and she stepped out. Next thing I know, people were walking in. And
how long were you there then?
Probably a week, 2.
Okay.
Yeah. The longest stay I had was actually the last time.
And how did you end up there the last time?
Well, the last time I was I was seeing I started seeing this female. Probably shouldn't have been seeing her at that time. I don't know. She was like 12 years older than me. Things got real serious with us, and I think I moved in with her. I'm not sure. Yeah, I moved in with her. We got married in February 2010, and then November 2010. Around that time is when I ended up back in the hospital because I tried to hang myself at a park. Yeah.
Okay, what happened at the park, and how did you get to that place? I mean, what was going on that you...
Well, being in a relationship and with the way I already feel about myself, I always try to please the other person. And
Okay, hold on, because you said the way I feel about myself, that you feel that you're not deserving, you feel like you're not good enough, or...
Yeah, for whatever reason, I always felt like that, and I always felt like I had to go above and beyond to show that person that, you know...
I'm worthy?
Yeah, so I would do, you know, things to, I don't know, just show them that I cared more, or I liked them more. And when they were upset, or when she was upset or mad, I blamed myself for it, and...
So it was all, you know, you was getting the same thing all over again.
Yeah, I guess you could say it pretty much the same way I felt, you know, when my father was telling me things. Internalized it and blamed myself. So anytime she would say anything to me.
Do you feel like you still do that now in relationships?
To a lot smaller degree.
So what's the difference from then and now?
Now I know that it's really not about me, and like, how can I put this? I know that I'm a good person. I know that all my intentions are always good.
When did you get to that place, when you recognized that you were a good person? Because it sounds like when you talk about your relationship with your father and you talk about your relationship with the woman, your wife, it doesn't sound the same.
Well, definitely when I was with when it came to relationship with my father, I didn't feel like I was a good person. I just felt like I was the bad, stupid son.
Right. So what happened in between that time? What happened that made you feel different? Where you at a place now where you say, I know I'm a good person?
Hearing it continuously from other people, I think.
Okay.
People I didn't expect to.
Since everybody was telling you, well, you had somebody telling you that you weren't good enough, then you had somebody telling you that you were the best person. But do you truly believe that?
At this point, I believe I'm a great person.
Okay. And but you're telling me that you got to this place because somebody told you that.
Well, and therapy
Okay.
and things like that. When I was, I believe right around the time when I got out the psych ward, the first time I was introduced to this, I guess, movie called The Secret. And I watched it, and, you know, it really made me start thinking that, you know, in there it talks about what you see or what you think about the most. That's what, you know, comes to life.
Fruition, yes.
So with that, I started thinking about it more and more, and I was seeing how that was playing out in my life.
Okay, very good.
Especially with the passing of my wife, I realized it even more.
So you didn't talk about the passing of your wife. You just
just
said the passing. So okay, but we're going to come back to that. We have to take a commercial break, everybody. We'll be right back.
Stretching under sedation or manipulation under anesthesia is a very gentle, very precise procedure to very slowly release any scar tissue that is formed as a result of a traumatic injury. Many people ask, how does this work? Will I get hurt? Will you stretch me too far? We only stretch the body part to its normal range of motion. After completing the post-MUA rehabilitation program, it's very common that our patients say to us, hey, I can play ball with my kid again. Hey, I can bowl again. Hey, I can enjoy hiking again. This is what makes it rewarding to us as practitioners.
Shannon Gates is the #1 fence provider on Long Island, with the most inventory in stock, including vinyl, chain link, and aluminum. Gates offers a custom powder-coated system that prevents rust throughout the life of the fence. We carry fence tools to the trade. We even stock wood, rail, and glass hardware as well. Shannon Gates has our very own patented locking system. The next time you need fencing of any sort, both commercial and private, give Shannon Gates a call at 631-392-4330. You can also visit our website at shannongatesinc.com. Shannon Gates is the #1 fence provider on Long Island.
My name is Dr. Robert Brevard. I'm here for Multi-Medicine in Westbury, New York. We're located at 1065 Old Country Road, Suite 214. Been here for about 15 years. The practice has medical doctors, physical therapists, chiropractors, acupuncturists. We also do pain management, and we have orthopedists on staff. Here at Advanced Multi-Medicine Rehabilitation, we've got physical therapists on staff who treat an array of conditions, from neck pain to back pain, shoulder pain. We treat carpal tunnel. We treat a lot of car accident patients, slip and falls. We treat patients with knee injuries, with ankle injuries. We have state-of-the-art equipment. We've been here for over 15 years. A vast array of diagnostic testing, from x-rays to EMGs. What is an EMG? It's a diagnostic test that allows a doctor to determine where the pinched nerve is. Cora is a physical therapist at Advanced Multi-Medicine and Rehabilitation. She's working on Stephanie, who was involved recently in an automobile accident. Stephanie has tight thoracic and cervical musculature, and Cora is doing some myofascial release work and some therapeutic stretching, doing it to help her with her pain. Vicky is also a patient here at Advanced Multi-Medicine and Rehabilitation. Vicky is now working her leg muscles, specifically her quadricep muscles, trying to strengthen them after an injury she sustained. If you find yourself in need of any type of physical therapy, please don't hesitate to call Advanced Multi-Medicine and Rehabilitation, located in Westbury, New York, in Suite 214. Phone number is 516-334-7000, or find us on our website at advancedmultimedicine.com.
And we're back. We ended with Wayne talking about his stints in the hospital. I don't like when you say psych ward. Just say hospital.
Okay.
And so we're on here. We're talking about men in depression tonight. And Wayne was brave enough to come and share his journey with us. So you left off at, where did you leave off?
Well, I think I flash forward real quick.
Right. Oh, you mentioned your wife.
Yeah, we were, I think she definitely suffered from depression as well. And I guess when we got together.
Did you realize that when you met her?
Not at first, but, you know, talking, I found out, and she found about me suffering from depression as well.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that was an accident?
I'm not sure.
Okay, because I don't believe in coincidences. I believe everything happens for a reason. I believe that that's probably what brought you two together, was you both were suffering from depression. That was something you had in common.
Could be, but her depression, I think she remembered telling me she suffered from abandonment. That's what triggered her depression.
Okay.
So I guess she always felt like I was going to leave her at some point or something, and she would get depressed and she would throw tantrums. I mean, all the stuff that I went through while I was with her was pretty crazy. One incident in particular that I'm thinking about is she was upset with me for, I can't even remember. And she was taking pills, and I remember she took a whole bunch of pills. She had a bottle of liquor or wine, and she took it to the head, and she pretty much swallowed everything. I was scared. And she tried to leave after she did that, so I pretty much blocked her from leaving and called 911 as soon as possible. And she, I thought she ran into her room. Well, actually, she did run into the room. And I got, the ambulance said they were on their way. I got off the phone with them, and I'm trying to look for her, and I can't see her anywhere. The next thing I know, I look out the window, and she's on the floor outside. She jumped out the window.
Did she hurt herself?
Yeah, she fractured her hip, I believe.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so she was in the hospital for a while after that.
So you were in a very unhealthy relationship.
Yeah, because, of course she did that, and what did I do? Blame myself.
That guilt to do it.
Yeah.
So it got to how did it get to a point where there was another suicide attempt?
I think, yeah, there were more incidences after that, of course. And
more incidences of?
Where ambulance had to come.
For your wife?
Yes.
Okay.
And
you were continuously blaming yourself?
Yeah. So I think it got to the point where I said, if I'm the cause of her doing this all the time, I shouldn't be here anymore.
What made you feel like you were the cause? That the choices that she was making, that she was making?
I guess she would say it,
So you had your father all over again?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you could say that. And it just got to the point where I just said, you know what, F it. Let me be out. So I remember I didn't know what to do in the beginning, so I think I just disappeared, turned my phone off, and I was gone for a day or two. And I remember I went to a park, and I was setting up to hang myself again, and I remember calling her, leaving a message, telling her, please just be happy, pretty much without me, and this is probably the last time you'll hear from me. And I tried hanging myself again, and as I was hanging, I realized I couldn't do it because I was there struggling for breath, and I couldn't struggle.
So you actually had a noose around
Yeah,
your
the
neck.
noose was there. I was hanging, but my hands were free, so I was able to grab onto something and pull myself up. But I was saying that if I were to really go through with it, I couldn't hang myself because you're actually struggling for air. It's your body reacting.
But that was something that you chose to do. What made you choose that?
I couldn't get a gun.
Okay. Well, we can laugh about it now because that hasn't happened.
No.
And how many years has it been?
I want to say probably about 6 years, maybe.
Okay. So what happened after that? Did you?
Well, I wasn't able to do it. I had friends pick me up. I went back home, and because they had ambulance and police looking for me and stuff, I couldn't stay home, so I had to go back into the hospital. And
okay, I'm confused. You said they had ambulance and police looking for you, so you couldn't, so you had to go back into the hospital?
Yeah, because once you make, I guess once you make that call to look for somebody with an attempt with suicide.
So they found you, in other words.
Yeah, I mean, I think I pretty much told them where I was, and I was just like, I just want to go home. So I went home, but they had already made the call.
How long were you in the hospital for this time?
That time I was in there for about a month.
And what happened when you got out?
Well, while I was in there, I think after the first day or two, I remember being in the bed and my mom came up to me and she told me that my wife at the time killed herself. And I didn't know how to react at that point. I didn't cry, but I remember I was dry heaving a lot. Like wanted to throw up, but nothing was coming out. And
you didn't cry at all? Have you cried Have you cried at all? Have you cried? Did you cry at any point in that situation during those years of the depression that you were experiencing?
Definitely.
You cried?
I can say I was a big crybaby behind doors.
Behind closed doors? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure we have a lot of people that way that don't want to show, because that's like a weakness to them. Did you decide to get into therapy after that?
Well, I think I was forced into therapy. I didn't want to be in there.
Oh, you didn't want to go to therapy?
No. I didn't, I felt like that was,
I think there's a stigma about therapy. I think that people automatically feel like if you're in therapy, you must be crazy. And I think as people of color, we definitely don't do therapy because, like I was just telling somebody the other night, they go to church, they pray on it, and not saying that they shouldn't. And I think you coming from a Caribbean background, it's even more of a stigma about therapy. We don't do therapy, right? I think that was one of the reasons why I became a therapist, because I felt like being a woman of color, we don't do therapy, and I feel like we need to, because there's a lot of trauma, there's transgenerational trauma that we deal with as people that we're not even aware of.
Yeah.
So you were forced to go. Well, answer this question. Being that you were forced to go, do you regret going to therapy?
No.
Okay. So I just want to make this clear for everybody, because I think, like I just said, people don't want to do therapy, and you didn't really want to do therapy in the beginning. But
I felt it was stupid.
Okay, you felt it was stupid, but do you feel like you benefited from it?
Definitely. Not all the time, because I was in, there was group therapy, or...
That was the intensive
outpatient.
The intensive outpatient.
Yeah, I was in that, and...
well, you want to explain what the intensive outpatient therapy is?
I mean, I think you can explain it better than me.
Intensive outpatient is when you're in therapy, what, you were in there 3 times a day? Were you in partial?
Yeah.
Partial hospitalization, yeah.
Yeah.
You were there every day?
No, I think maybe 2 or 3 times a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Till like 1 o'clock?
Yeah, it was almost like
half a day.
Half a day kind of thing.
Okay.
And
then you stepped down, and then you went to a group, but then you decided that group wasn't good for you.
Yeah, because when I was in the group therapy sessions, I felt like my problems was insignificant compared to everybody else's.
And you didn't want to talk.
Yeah, I didn't talk.
So you ended up an individual.
Yeah. And I think...
What did you learn?
I can't even remember I just, from every from all the sessions I was in, I believe there was a few things sometimes here and there I would pick out that would stick with me and really make me think about my situation and how, it's beneficial. Something in there is beneficial to me, and it's helping me.
Okay.
And I just kept taking little pieces here and there.
Okay.
And that is what continued me, I guess, wanting to go to therapy after that.
Okay, we're going to talk some more about therapy. When we come back, we have to go into another commercial. But when we come back, therapy it is.
I'll be on top again. I'm not gonna let you take me down. It's gonna be the whole 9 yards or nothing.
Could switching to Geico really save you 15% or more on car insurance? Do dogs chase cats?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
And we're back. We left a second ago talking about Wayne getting into therapy after years of depression. And I have to remind anybody who just tuned in that we're talking about men in depression. So, Wayne, you want to continue with your discussion about therapy and what it was like for you, and how it helped you?
Well, when I was in the individual therapy, it wasn't. I had maybe about 4 or 5 different therapists that I saw before I actually got to being in therapy with you. And I believe the last one before you, I picked out something out of each therapy or therapist that I was with, but I didn't feel comfortable.
Okay,
And
why didn't you feel comfortable?
I want to say it was like very structured, and it was probably just too structured, and I didn't know.
Can you elaborate? What do you mean when you say structured?
Like, you know, they had their pen and pad out, and it's like they were going through a checklist when
Okay.
speaking with me.
And then you got into therapy again, and what made it different?
I don't think there wasn't anything different. It might have been less structured, but there was something that was mentioned to me, and it struck a chord with me, and I was just like, wow, you know, this makes sense, and I see how it applies to my life.
So, in other words, because we're talking about me, I brought some spirituality into the session.
Yes.
Okay.
That was a little difficult for me. Like I said, being brought up as a Jehovah's Witness, I immediately felt like that was the wrong thing to be doing. And
did you feel like it was a different God I was talking about?
I don't know. And, you know, being brought up as a Jehovah's Witness, they always tell you this is the truth. This is what's, you know, this is what's right. That's it. Everything else is not right, pretty much. So.
Well, I can recall the first time we had a conversation, because I think it was about God, you know, being a Jehovah's Witness and suffering from the depression that you were having, and not feeling, kind of being ostracized, I guess.
Well, I did feel like that at, you know, being there sometimes. I always felt like I was looked upon as, you know, I always thought that people in the meetings were like, oh, you know, telling their children, don't hang out with him.
Did you feel that way, or was that really happening?
No, I don't know if that was happening or not, but I felt that way.
Okay.
And that could have been my
Because
mind.
might not have been real.
Yeah.
It could have been from, what happens is you have past experiences of always being put down and always being told you're not good enough, or you're whatever it is, something negative about yourself. You're going to think that. You're going to distort everything. You're going to have distorted thoughts.
Yeah.
So.
But I think with that, I don't want to feel like, kind of like, man, I feel like I'm bashing.
No,
the
absolutely
Jehovah's Witnesses,
not.
But
no, I know what you're saying.
It got to a point where I actually sat down with myself, and I was just like, all right, do I want to continue doing this? It was either pretty much continue trying to be a witness and be miserable behind closed doors, or try and be happy and just forget about that for now. And I think I made the choice to try and be happy.
Do you still believe in God? Do you still believe in God? You have to question that?
Yeah.
You have to think about that? So what makes you...
It's just weird when I'm thinking about that because, like I said, I think about my past being brought up as a witness.
But
I believe there's a higher power.
Okay, okay.
There's definitely a higher power. I believe in that. But
because I remember one of the things I said to you was, God is love. So everybody should, if they see that you are going through a hard time, they should be embracing you to say, well, what's wrong, or can we help you? So I don't want anybody to think that I'm teaching you that there's no God.
Nah.
But it's a different, I guess, idea.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much where I guess there's a difference.
You know, what I think is what helped you through this is that you learned that you have more control over your life than you thought.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And one thing that that definitely helped me, because I always thought I wasn't in control of my thoughts. I always thought, you know, I couldn't control thinking about depression and suicide and death. Mm-hmm. That's all I've really thought about. And you mentioned in therapy, and that always stuck with me too. Change the things you think about, and the things you think about will change. Something along those lines.
I can't even think of it. If you change the way you think about things, the things you think about will change, right? I don't remember.
Yeah, something along those lines. But that definitely stuck with me, and I tried really to have more control over my thoughts. Anytime I felt like I was thinking negative about things, I would realize that, change, and try and think about something positive. And
that's a tool.
Do
you think that's all it took for you to get to this place of happiness?
No.
Okay. And it took work for you?
Yeah. There were books. There's a lot of books that I've read.
Mm-hmm.
A lot, I want to say, and I'm not a good book reader.
Okay.
I really don't like reading books. I fall asleep a lot.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that.
But there's a lot of books out there that just help you, or help me, realize, again, that I'm more in control of my thoughts.
Get a better understanding of who you are.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's something that you learned in therapy, that you got a better understanding of who you are?
Yeah, because there was many times in therapy where you would ask me questions or something, and I would just be stunned and just sit there and really think about it, and it would just click, like, I'm really making this choice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you have anything you want to share with other men who may be depressed or suffering from depression?
I don't really think, you know, I feel like everybody feels depressed at some point in their life, or feels down, and they're just scared to mention it, feeling that's going to make them look weak. I could care less now at this point what other people think, because at the end of the day...
So that's changed for you too?
Yeah. At the end of the day, I have to deal with myself. So if I'm happy with myself, that's all that matters. And I feel like like I said, I'm finally happy with myself.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming and sharing your story. You had to have a lot of courage to do that and to talk about the things you talked about, especially the hospitalizations, the suicide attempts. And
yeah.
I mean, but I have to reiterate that I want people to understand that it's painful. When someone is wanting to commit suicide, it's really about the pain that they don't want to have to deal with anymore. Is that safe to say?
Yes.
Okay.
And I hope that this, you know, can help other people. I mean, I've also been writing out my life story pretty much, and hopefully just hope to help other people at some point.
You say you're going to make a memoir?
Trying to make it, yeah, it's a memoir.
Very good.
Book, so
that's something productive. But I have a lot of information on my website about depression. I have workshops on there about cognitive behavior therapy. If you can go to cdorch.lcsw.com, that's cdortch.lcsw.com, and check my website for any other information you may need, information on getting a therapist. Please feel free to do so. Thank you for watching, everyone. Love and light.